Hello, crafty friends. This is Anya General with Ink, Paper, Scissors. I'm thrilled to be spending some crafty time with you today. If you love fun fold cards, I think you're going to enjoy today's video because I'll be sharing 7 different fun fold cards using the beautiful Dear Santa collection from Spellbinders. Before we get started, let me quickly introduce the products I'll be using throughout today's projects. I'll be working with the Dear Santa dimensional stickers, including the festive birds, Christmas trees, ornaments, and poinsettias, along with the Happy Post envelope dies, festive floral mix dies, and Merry Greetings dies. And finally, we have the gorgeous Dear Santa 12x12 paper pack. I'll give you a quick look through all of the patterns because these papers really become the star of today's projects and make creating coordinating cards incredibly easy. I'll have the complete supply list linked in the description below if you'd like to check any of them out. And if you enjoy card making tutorials like this one, I'd really appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up, shared it with a friend, and considered subscribing if you haven't already. It really helps support my channel and lets me continue bringing you new card-making ideas and inspiration each week. Now let's get started. We're going to start with a fun fold that's both simple to make and really impressive when it's finished. I'm starting with a standard side folding A2 card base. The cardstock measures 5.5 by 8.5 inches and it's scored and folded right down the middle. To create the fun fold, I'm trimming about 1.25 inches off the front of the card base. It's a small change, but it completely transforms a traditional A2 card into something much more interactive while still being easy to make. Next, I'm trimming one of the patterned papers to 2.75 by 5.25 inches so it fits perfectly on the shortened front panel. For the inside of the card, I'm trimming a piece of white cardstock to 3.75 by 5 inches. This gives us a nice clean area for writing a personal message while leaving a small border around the edges for a finished look. I adhere the white panel to the inside of the card base and then attach the patterned paper to the front flap. With the base complete, it's time to create the focal point that will hold everything together. I'm using the simple vintage Lavender Fields Hexagons, dies from the Simple Stories collection by Spellbinders. I choose 2 sizes of hexagons and temporarily secure them together with low-tack tape before die cutting. Taping the dies together keeps the spacing exactly the way I want it and creates a perfectly even frame in just one pass through the die cutting machine. Next, I die cut the larger solid hexagon from both red and white cardstock. And I also die cut the smaller solid hexagon from white cardstock. To make it easy, you will have 1 white frame, 1 large hexagon in both white and red, and 1 small hexagon in white. Now it's time to add a little texture. I'm embossing the white hexagon frame using the Country Christmas embossing folder and my Spellbinders Platinum 6. Embossing just the frame adds another layer of interest without making the design feel too busy. To give the large white hexagon a little more life, I bring in my Altenew sticky mat and lightly ink blend over the surface using only the ink that's already left on my blending brush. Sometimes those leftover inks create the softest blends, and it's a great way to add a subtle touch of color without overwhelming the patterned paper. I absolutely love the soft contrast once the embossed white frame is adhered over the ink-blended hexagon. The layers create just enough separation while keeping everything light and elegant. Next, I adhere the smaller white hexagon on top of the larger red hexagon. And now it's time to assemble the card. I start by gluing the red hexagon to the inside of the card base. Then I carefully line up the white hexagon on the front flap so it matches the one inside. Before adding any adhesive, I like to close the card and make sure both pieces are perfectly aligned. That extra few seconds makes all the difference in helping the fun fold close neatly. One important tip here is to apply adhesive only to the portion of the front hexagon that overlaps the front flap. If you add glue to the entire die cut, you'll accidentally glue the card shut. To finish the card, I add one of the Dear Santa Christmas Trees dimensional stickers as my focal point, followed by one of the sentiments from this month's Stamp and Cut Club. And just like that, our first fun fold card is complete. For my second card, I'm creating another fun fold that's just as easy to make, but opens in a completely different way. I'm starting with a scrap piece of light pink cardstock trimmed to 4 1/4 by 11 inches. Then I score it at 2 3/4 inches from each end. This creates 2 panels that fold inward toward the center. This gives the card an opening in the middle of the card base, making it a fun surprise when the recipient opens it. Now it's time to decorate the front of the card. I'm trimming a strip of patterned paper to 4 inches wide and then cutting it into 2 panels measuring 2½ inches each. These panels fit perfectly onto the 2 front flaps and let the beautiful patterned paper become the star of the design. With the card base finished, it's time to create the focal point. I'm using the Linear Touch rectangle die set from Spellbinders. I chose one of the smaller rectangles along with its coordinating layering frame. I die cut the frame from the same pink cardstock as the card base and the smaller rectangle from white cardstock before adhering the 2 pieces together. Now it's time to attach the focal panel. Just like with the previous card, adhesive placement is really important here. I only apply glue to the portion of the rectangle that will sit on the top flap of the card. That allows the bottom flap to open freely while the center panel still stays beautifully aligned. Before the glue has a chance to dry, I like to close the card and double-check that everything lines up nicely. Taking a few extra seconds here helps the finished card open and close exactly the way it's supposed to. Next, I trim a piece of white cardstock to 4 by 5 1/4 inches and adhere it to the inside of the card. This creates plenty of room to write a personal message while also brightening the inside of the card. Now comes my favorite part, decorating the centerpiece of the card. I'm using one of the Dear Santa Festive Birds dimensional stickers as the focal image, along with a greeting from the Merry Greetings Etched dies. These dimensional stickers make creating polished cards incredibly quick because all of the beautiful layering has already been done for you. With the sentiment in place, our second fun fold card is complete. For my third card, we're creating another easy fun fold with a hidden surprise inside. I'm starting with a piece of pine green cardstock trimmed to 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 inches, and I score it right down the center at 4 1/4 inches. To create the fun fold, I bring in my paper trimmer and cut along the score line about 3 inches from the top. Then I rotate the cardstock and make a second cut toward that first cut, creating a flap that opens like a gate. Because of the style of paper trimmer I'm using, I don't want to cut past my cut lines. Instead, I finish that last little bit with a pair of scissors. It only takes a second, and it gives me a nice clean cut exactly where I want it. Now it's time to decorate the front of the card. I'm trimming one of the patterned papers to 4 by 2¼ inches and adhering it to the front flap. Since this is a simple fun fold, the patterned paper really becomes one of the main design elements. Next, I'm pulling out the Perfect Touch Arches die set from Spellbinders. I choose 2 coordinating arches and die cut both from white cardstock. Then I die cut the larger arch one more time from the same pine green cardstock as the card base. This gives us 2 large arches, one in white and one in green, and a small arch in white. Before assembling the card, I want to add a little texture to the inside of the card. I'm trimming a white panel to 4 by 5¼ inches and embossing it with this month's Festive Greetings 3D embossing folder. I love adding embossed panels to this style of card because it complements the pattern paper that is already visible on the front of the card. Once the embossing is complete, I adhere the panel inside the card base and then center the large white arch on top of it. Next, I adhere the large green arch to the front flap, taking a moment to line it up with the white arch inside the card. Again, you want to be careful and only add adhesive to the bottom part of the arch, so you can still freely open the gatefold. When the card is closed, the inside arch is completely hidden, but as soon as it's opened, the design is revealed. To finish decorating the front, I add a little red ink blending around the edges of the smaller white arch. It's a subtle detail, but it helps tie the arch into the rest of the Christmas color palette and gives it a little more definition. Next, I add 2 of the ornaments from the Dear Santa Ornaments dimensional stickers. I love grouping them together because they naturally create a beautiful focal point without needing a lot of additional embellishments. Finally, I finish the card with one of the greetings from the Merry Greetings dies. And with that, our third fun fold card is complete. And we're already moving on to our fourth fun fold card. I have to say, this is definitely one of my favorites from today's video. It looks much more complicated than it actually is, and I love the surprise inside when you open it. I'm starting with 2 pieces of Christmas red cardstock. The first measures 8½ by 4¼ inches, and the second measures 4¼ by 4½ inches. I score the larger piece at 4¼ inches, and I do the same with the smaller piece. I make sure that I am scoring along the 4½ inch side, but I am scoring at the 4¼ inch mark. After folding along both score lines, I trim the corners off the narrow tab on the smaller piece. Removing those corners creates a cleaner finish and makes it much easier to attach the 2 pieces together. Next, I add adhesive to the small tab and attach it to the larger card base, creating the Z-fold mechanism. This is such a fun fold because it's easy to build, but it gives you several panels to decorate. Now it's time to add the pattern paper. I'm trimming 3 pieces to 4 by 4 inches and adhering 1 to each panel. Using the same pattern paper throughout the card helps tie everything together and creates a cohesive design from front to back. Next, I'm bringing back the Perfect Touch Arches die set from Spellbinders and die cutting 3 of the larger arches from white cardstock. Now comes the part that really makes this fun fold work. I adhere 1 arch to each section of the card, but I only apply adhesive along the bottom of each arch where it attaches to the card base. This allows the arches to stand independently while the card still folds flat. Before the adhesive has a chance to set, I close the card and check the alignment of all 3 arches. Taking a moment to line them up now ensures that they're hidden behind one another when the card is closed, creating a beautiful surprise as each layer is revealed when the card is opened. With the structure complete, it's time for my favorite part, decorating. I die cut several elements off camera using both the Happy Post envelope dies and the Festive Floral Mix dies from Spellbinders. At this point, I'll let you sit back, enjoy the assembly process, and get inspired as all of the little details come together. Sometimes it's nice to simply watch a card take shape without too much narration. I'll be back in just a moment with our next fun fold card. Before starting the next card, I realized I had completely run out of greetings. So I took a few minutes to die cut several more sentiments from the Merry Greetings die set by Spellbinders. I always like to have a little stash of greetings ready to go, especially when I'm making multiple cards in one crafting session. Now let's move on to our fifth fun fold card. This one is another Z-fold, but it's created from a standard side-folding A2 card base, making it a great design if you're just getting started with fun folds. I begin by scoring the front panel at 2 1/8 inches, then fold that panel back on itself to create the Z-fold. It's a simple modification that completely changes the way the card opens while still using a traditional card base. Next, I trim one piece of patterned paper to 4 by 5 1/4 inches for the inside of the card, along with two smaller panels measuring 2 by 5 3/8 inches for the front. With the card base complete, it's time to create the focal point. I die cut two circles measuring approximately 2 3/4 inches. The first circle is adhered to the front flap, where I decorated with one of the beautiful Dear Santa Poinsettia's dimensional stickers from Spellbinders. These dimensional stickers make creating an elegant focal point incredibly quick, since all of the layering has already been done for you. I decided the inside of the card needed a little extra detail as well, so I added a second circle for the greeting. Just like we've done on some of the previous cards, alignment is the key to making this design work. I apply adhesive to the back of the inside circle, I lay it with the clean side on top of the front centerpiece circle, and then close the card before the glue sets. This allows the inside circle to sit perfectly behind the centerpiece circle. When the card is closed, the inside circle is completely hidden behind the focal point on the front. It's a simple little trick, but it creates a really clean finish and makes the fun fold feel much more polished. And with the greeting in place, our fifth fun fold card is complete. Now we're on to the last card of today's video, and I have to admit, I saved my favorite for last. I'm starting with a piece of red cardstock trimmed to 4 by 5 1/2 inches, and I score it at 2 inches. After folding along the score line, it's time to create the opening that makes this fun fold work. I'm bringing in 2 circle dies and centering the smaller one over the score line. Once I'm happy with the placement, I secure it with mint tape before running it through my Anna Griffin Empress. I'm really happy with how this turned out, but if I were making this card again, I would actually adhere the patterned paper first and then die cut the circle through both layers at the same time. That would guarantee everything lines up perfectly and save a little extra work later. Since I didn't think of that until afterward, I trimmed 2 pieces of patterned paper to 5 3/8 by 1 7/8 inches and carefully die cut matching circles in each one so they would line up with the opening in the card base. Next, I line up both circle dies and temporarily secure them together with mint tape. This allows me to die cut both decorative borders in exactly the same position, so everything stays perfectly aligned. I die cut 2 circle borders from glitter cardstock, along with 2 more from white cardstock. The white circles aren't meant to be seen. They simply add strength and a little extra dimension behind the glitter layers, making the finished frame much sturdier. I glue both white circles behind one glitter circle to create a thicker, more substantial frame. while the second glitter circle remains a single layer. Now I can adhere the patterned paper to the card base before placing both circle frames into their openings. Those glitter borders help finish the cut edges beautifully and make the window look much more polished. Next, I want the back of the card to look just as finished as the front while still allowing the fold to move freely. To do that, I turn the card over and make 2 small pencil marks where I need to create a score line on the glitter circle. After scoring it on my scoreboard, I adhere it to the back of the card. That little score line allows the circle to flex with the movement of the card while also giving the back a clean, finished appearance. It's a small detail, but it makes a big difference in both the function and the overall look of the card. Now it's time for my favorite part, decorating. I die cut all of the decorative elements off camera using the Happy Post envelope dies, Festive Floral Mix dies, and the Merry Greetings dies from Spellbinders. I'll let you enjoy the rest of the assembly process with a little music, and then I'll be back to share my bonus card and wrap up today's video. Before we wrap up today's video, I wanted to share one more fun fold card with you. I won't be showing how I made this one today, but if enough of you would like to see a full tutorial, I'd be happy to make it a future video. Just let me know in the comments below. Now let's take one last look at all 7 cards before we wrap things up. I hope today's video has inspired you to try a few new fun folds and shown you that they don't have to be complicated to make. Sometimes a simple fold is all it takes to turn an ordinary card into something extra special. I'd love to hear from you. Which of today's 7 cards was your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up and subscribed if you haven't already. Don't forget to check the description below for the complete supply list and a link to my blog, where you'll find photos of all 7 cards. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. Until next time, happy crafting!